Well, 2009 was certainly the year of the credit crunch. Daily news stories of job losses, businesses folding, banks collapsing, families struggling to make ends meet. Well, when faced with increasing financial difficulty, many people turned to loan sharks as a last resort. But they soon found that they were faced with debts spiralling out of control. And that resulted in threats to themselves, even to members of their family, if they didn't keep up their repayments. One of our nominees for this year's Your Champions Award knows firsthand the devastation that illegal moneylenders can cause. In December 2005, Carol Highton found her 22-year-old son Brian hanged at their Halton Brook home. Carol is convinced that Brian took his life after struggling to repay a debt to a notorious loan shark. Well, despite the loss of her son, Carol was determined to help other people with their financial worries. She campaigned tirelessly against illegal moneylenders, and she established the Brian Shields Trust to advise people in her community on their debt management. Well, Carol, very pleased to meet you. Thanks very much indeed for being interviewed, and many congratulations on being nominated for this year's Your Champion of Champions. Would you mind telling me a little bit about Brian, first of all, your son? What kind of a son was he?
Brian was my middle child. I've 2 sons and a daughter. All I can say about him is he was a beautiful, beautiful boy. Big and strong, funny, you'll never meet anyone, such a prankster. He had everything going for him. He's a footballer, played for Wigan and Oldham. They both scouted him, you know, at schoolboy levels. School, he stayed on at school, he wanted to go to university. If his football didn't work out, as it happened, it didn't work out and that. And he did want to go on and play for his beloved Everton. But it didn't happen, so.
Tell me, what were the circumstances in which he became involved with a loan shark?
He got himself into a little bit of a vicious circle. As I say, the people he worked with weren't nice people. They seemed to have a little routine of every weekend, you know, after work, they'd go out to a pub together, and Brian was offered some cocaine, and he took it, and this was a regular thing for a few weeks apparently, and until one day, it was all free, until one day he was told, you know, all that cocaine we've been giving you and that we need the money for it, you now owe us £300.
So he was introduced to drugs, but he didn't have to pay for them initially. This just went on and on and on, until what? One
of them very kindly offered to lend him the money because he run a loan company. He said, I'll sort you out, and he lent him £300. From the initial £300, they made him sign 3 lots of contracts because they kept demanding the money back off him, and he ended up owing £3,400 in the space of 12 weeks.
So the person he was actually borrowing money from did have a licence to be a moneylender, but in fact he had a criminal record. So in fact he should not have been a moneylender, a licensed moneylender at all, should he really?
No, definitely not.
How do you feel about that?
Angry, very angry. I mean, it's the Office of Fair Trade and that gave this guy the licence, obviously without doing the you know, the checks that you're meant to do. So that's wrong, that needs looking into, you know.
Now, to what extent would you say that, you know, the pressures that he was under from this loan shark to repay this money, how much do you think that contributed to his death?
My son's not here today because of the intimidation and the brutality and the threats that this man and his team of henchmen and forces were given out on a daily basis, you know, to people. That's why my son's not here. He's been told that he had to get the whole sum back, and I think he realised, hang on, they've just done this to me twice here, made me sign a piece of paper. This is going up and up and up, and I'm getting in deeper and deeper. Now the threats that were made were to his life and to his mum's life and his family, what they're going to do. Brian didn't want that. The only way out of this was to take his own life, and then he thought it would have ended there.
In March 2009, 39-year-old loan shark Paul Nicholson was jailed indefinitely at Warrington Crown Court after being arrested by the Birmingham illegal money lending team a year earlier. He was found guilty of 12 counts of blackmail and 1 each of rape, actual bodily harm, operating without a licence, lying to obtain a licence and acquiring criminal property. When police raided Paul Nicholson's £1.5 million home, they found thousands of pounds in cash and an array of weapons. We heard what's happened to this man Nicholson. He's behind bars. All that is history now. Many people would say, well, it's time to move on. Forget about it. Make a new start. You haven't done that. You've decided to turn this into something positive. You've set up the Brian Shields Trust to help other people. What are its aims and objectives?
The way I see it, you know, the trust, the role we're playing is being that bridge, being the one to bridge the gap, as you like, for the authorities and all the different agencies that are out there. Now, people know they're out there, but I believe they don't always use them services, you know, when they're in trouble, especially when it's as serious as what Brian was in, because they're too afraid or that. So now I just want people to know that the reason the trust is set up is so that we can take that worry away from you. You're not sat behind a door worrying all the time. See, I think there's a little bit of a stigma when it's loan sharks and people seem to think that it must be people who are desperate because of drink or drugs or, you know, problems like that. It's not always the case, you know. I mean, there's businesses who've gone to this guy. There's people, everyday circumstances, you know, they've come out of work and then Christmas is coming up, or they've had a funeral and they've had to find money. You know, it's people from all walks of life, not just you know, people with problems like drugs or drink. And
I guess you would agree that in this particular period that we're going through at the moment, this economic crisis, that many people could end up, and probably do end up, going to loan sharks. And you want to stop that?
There's nothing we won't be able to touch upon. It's just about getting them the correct help at the right time.
And your own story, the fact that you've set up this trust and the reasons behind it and what happened to your son Brian, that's resulted in a great deal of media attention and the awards that you've received, yes?
Yes, I got a phone call for about another award that I'd been nominated for, and apparently I've won it. It's one of Britain's Bravest Women Award. I'm being presented that. I'm going off to Surrey at the weekend, and that's getting presented by Lorraine Kelly. I got awarded from the Trading Standards Institute, Hero 2009. I've done a lot of work with them trying to raise awareness. I've had a lot of media attention. I've been on a lot of the TV programmes, you know, like The One Show and Panorama and the Politics Show, GMTV, just talking about my own story. I mean, when you think that the loan shark involved with my son had 1,156 customers or victims, as you want to call them, I'm only telling you one story here. So to bring it out into, you know, you're coming into people's homes, that's the idea of it. And if they're in the same position as my son, I think it's good, because I think, well, hang on, this woman's done something about it, you know, we can stand up for ourselves. I've not done anything brave or courageous, and all I've done is continue to be Brian's mum. That's how I see it, you know, so I haven't done anything out of the ordinary.
And how do you feel about being nominated for this year's Champion of Champions?
Proud, really, really proud. I don't do what I do for awards, but to be nominated alone, it's fantastic, you know. And if I did win it, it's in Brian's name, and I'll put it there in his office next to the other one. Yeah, proud.
Well, Carol, many congratulations for being nominated. Good luck, and thank you very much indeed for sharing your story with us. Thank you.
Thank you.